You're listening to the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast, and we're talking Indiana Fever. That's right. The Indiana Fever as they get ready to close out the WNBA season, and Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever are going to take on the Connecticut Sun. It's fever time. That's right. It's fever time. The Indiana Fever. There's no better show America's team, and that's just who they are. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast, and how we doing? How we doing? This one here is going to get a little bit interesting, so sit back, relax. I'm going to talk a little bit about Sheryl Swoops. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Atlanta owner and her comments, and going to talk a little bit about WNBA officials. I'll keep just marking that one down again and again and again. But today it's going to get real interesting because Sheryl Swoops, man, oh man, I'll tell you, Sheryl Swoops, what's the deal with Sheryl Swoops?
Since the Olympic break?
Or do they need that rest?
No doubt. I think, and so I've talked about this with some other people, I felt like the Olympic break helped the Indiana Fever more than any other team. And I felt like the Olympic break really hurt Chicago. Because I thought before the break, Indiana was playing well, Chicago was playing well, and granted, there have been injuries and things like that. But since the Olympic break, this Indiana Fever team, to me, is a completely different team. And I don't know if people really understand how much, like, rest plays a part of that. Because when you look at Caitlin, she went from playing in college, playing in the Final Four, going to the draft, going to training camp, season starts, and the Fever are playing, I don't know how many games they played just in a row. But what I've seen from this team, it's not just about like one player.
Somebody help me out and understanding why Sheryl Swoops just continues. And, you know, I mean, she's on the Gilbert Arenas show, and you're sitting there, and I'm listening to them talk about Sheryl Swoops and what Sheryl Swoops thinks, who she is, and how does she look at things. Sheryl Swoops is very interesting to me because the comments that Sheryl Swoops makes, they really don't make any sense. And when you take a listen at the comments.
But their ability to really gel together and their chemistry right now is like they look like they've been playing together for years. And I do think what Caitlin's been able to do in a short period of time has been very impressive, right? And so, because I know people are like, oh my God, you said she wouldn't be good. But I didn't say she wouldn't be good. What I said was I didn't think Caitlin or Angel would come into the league and dominate.
And you try to understand, why is Sheryl Swoops doing this? You try to understand, why is Sheryl Swoops doing this? What's going on? You know, I saw her in the beginning with Angel Reese, and then she comes back on Gilbert Arenas. They pull her off her game, and rightfully so. I mean, the WNBA, and here's the biggest thing I think the NBA and the WNBA just don't understand between everything that they do, is you got investors. And investors want to have a rate of return. And when the investors want to have a rate of the return, you just have to understand that some things you got to give to get.
So, like the first half of the season, I feel like after the break, I still don't think she's dominating, but she's a different player than she was in the first half of the season. And I think because of her adjustment and her ability to play first half of the season, you have a break. And it was great that the Olympics was this year, right? That she came into the league. You had a break, had an opportunity to work on your game, do whatever it was she did, but also an opportunity to practice with your teammates. And like, I've never questioned if Caitlin was a good player. Yeah. I think she's a hell of a player.
Now, with Sheryl Swoops, and here's what gets me with the Dream owner and Sheryl Swoops, where people are saying, okay, you got Angel Reese receiving death threats, okay? And that's not a good thing, okay? No way am I saying that should happen or should continue. But you got to also understand the people okay, who are actually pushing a part of those threats. You got Sheryl Swoops is pushing a part of those threats, okay? She's saying ridiculous things. And you got to understand Sheryl Swoops. Sheryl Swoops was a great player in her era. Today, Sheryl Swoops would just be an average player at best. Okay, didn't have tremendous ball handling skills, wasn't a point guard, a true point, and that's what this is all about, being a point guard.
And my thing was, no, I didn't think she would come in and dominate. I thought it would take her some time to adjust to being a professional. And to me, I think that's exactly what she's done. And her teammates have, like, they too have taken their game to a whole nother level. I think that's what has made this Indiana Fever team a hell of a team post-Olympic break.
Yeah.
And dominating the game as a point guard. You got Swoops over there. It's opening up with their opinion saying, sure, Caitlin Clark isn't dominating. Now, that one there really, really gets me because all the NBA players are saying, you know what, Caitlin Clark's dominating game. Caitlin Clark's doing this, and the assists. And then you got Swoops gets on there. She talks about Angel Reese rebounds and how important rebounds are and how much effort, and it just goes on and on and on.
You know what I think? I think leading the WNBA in assists is dominating.
You think so?
I do.
Why?
Because she's a rookie. She's never been in this atmosphere.
You know,
But also leading in turnovers, too.
Yeah, I was going to mention. I was going to get into all of that.
But those turnovers are not really her turnovers.
And that's why I was going to get into it. So the domination, when you talk about her already leading the W in assists, and a lot of the assists that she could have gotten were now turnovers. Yeah. Because they're either,
you can say that about every player.
Of course. But this is obvious with her. She's throwing pitch aheads, wide open layups. They're smoking them. This could be 13 a game. This could be 14 a game. Like they're literally just dropping passes.
I mean, it's went so far that you had a position with the Dallas Wings as a broadcaster. They pull you off of that, right? They're like, you're not even going to get close to Caitlin Clark because your mental capacity of what you're doing is wrong. And it's flat out wrong, and I don't get it. Now, I'm going to move this over to the Atlanta team owner. I mean, they had a problem before, and they got a problem now. And, you know, when I look at it, I say, man, what the heck is these guys trying to do, right? Because it doesn't really make sense.
A diehard Celtics fan could hate the Lakers. And you know what? If we being honest, that Celtics fan base has definitely gone too far with some of their racist remarks and their treatments of players. It's not okay. It's okay to be a hater in sports. Like, hating in sports is a part of the game. Like, I like when our fans are so engaged and so passionate that they just don't like the other team. So Caitlin, unfortunately for her, this is a group that is attached to her, not her asking this group to follow. It seems that they found a home in this fan base.
And Renee Montgomery, and I don't know, there's some studies out there. I don't think women value money the same way men value money, okay? And I think for these statements to be said by an owner, and it didn't make sense to me, so I had to go and I dig, and I said, okay, what do you got? You got an owner? That was a player. Okay. Let's dig deeper. Let's go up here and see what's going on with the attendance, right? Because you get a situation where somebody's telling you something's fine, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what do you got? You got the attendance, obviously, you didn't figure or taking it down. I'm looking for Atlanta because they got an owner saying the game is fine, everything's fine, we got everything we need. And then I keep going down and down. Now I see why the mistakes made. The Atlanta Dreamer last in the attendance. Last. Okay, they sold out a game 17,000 when Caitlin Clark come to town. So you got an owner. Don't understand this, folks. You got an owner. There are people who are pushing the narrative, okay, for players, and then turn around and you're going, no, that's okay. So when you get fans going back and forth about Angel Reese, and they're telling everybody how good Angel Reese is. Angel Reese is a good player. No doubt about it. In my mind, Angel Reese is a good player, could be a great player in basketball if she committed 100%, right? But I don't know if that will happen because there's off the field. Angel Reese, if you get right down to it, what the WNBA players make, Angel Reese is bigger than the whole WNBA because she can go out there celebrity acting and come in there and make enough that what everybody makes in a salary in the WNBA, right? Let's be honest about it. But when you get right down to it, and you got an owner, okay, of the Atlanta Dream, and this Renee Montgomery is co-owner, not the actual owner, but the co-owner, right? But you get them saying, hey, our game is fine. I don't get it, folks, because you can't be saying your game is fine when you're losing money, okay? And when you got a team right now that was playing in an arena, I don't know, hold 3,000, 4,000 people, and then you come back and say, well, no, it's not Caitlin Clark. And I'm going, you guys have got to be kidding me, right? This doesn't make any sense. He's sitting there like Sheryl Swoops. I was thinking about Pam McGee. And I know a couple ambassadors, and I know them pretty good. Pam McGee really helped out our basketball club, Showtime Hoops. Ruthie Bolton came on in, trained the girls right there. These are all high major. You go all the way back to Chelsea Gray, and everybody's playing now today. You look at Ruthie Bolton, she was there. She was there with the Monarchs, showing first class WNBA championship won by the Monarchs. I don't know why that history should be returning. But you got Montgomery speaking her mind, and don't get me wrong, folks, everybody's got a right to their opinion, okay? But at the end of the day, I always tell you it's my opinion, but if it turns to truth, I give you the facts before it happens. Corporate enterprise business, there's no way in the world that any owner, okay, is going to want to lose money. That's 100%, and that's what Montgomery's saying. Hey, we're fine over here. We're fine as the Atlanta Dream. We don't need Caitlin Clark fans or anything like that. So you want the money, but you don't want the honey that comes with it, right? So when it gets down to it, what is everybody really saying? Yeah, sports. Sports, you got black and white. And the other thing I'll tell you got with Caitlin Clark, and this is a fact, Caitlin Clark is a white basketball player that doesn't play white. I repeat, Caitlin Clark is a white basketball player that doesn't play white, okay? And you got to go, I'll give you a good example of that. The Sacramento Kings had Jason Williams. They called him White Chocolate. He was a white basketball player that didn't play white, okay? And then you go over there to Mabry, right? You got Mabry with the Connecticut Sun, okay? She plays a style of basketball that when you come up and you expect things that a white player would do. However, you have some white players go play with black players, and all of a sudden you pick things up that are advantage to you. So that's a huge, huge, huge issue with the WNBA because and I don't think the players really do. I think the players are more about hooking up and saying, hey, you know what? You got Caitlin Clark over there. What can I do to get Caitlin Clark? And it came from Iowa, right? So you got all the investors who are invested in Iowa basketball, and they're loving Caitlin Clark. They're bringing money to the WNBA, right? So you're bringing more fans, and what does it come down to? Okay, well, we got more fans, and now you go a little step further. If you want to make it black and white, you got more white fans that are tuned in that you didn't have. You got to call it what it is, and when you get right down to it, you make projections. You got to make projections of what the league's going to do. And you got to have a certain character player. And I told you guys this at the beginning of the season. Half the players in the WNBA today won't be here, okay? Because you cannot have players doing certain things. And you got new age or new players who are coming in that they have fan base. They did the work. It was different. And the players who started in the WNBA didn't have social media. The college player coming in today has a social media fan page. So what are they doing? They're bringing their fans to the game who are buying tickets. And it's not just Caitlin Clark, but the dominance of Caitlin Clark and the amount of fans Caitlin Clark has is tremendous. Now, what do I mean by that? You got Angel Reese has more followers than Caitlin Clark. Okay, so you would think Angel Reese fans who are her followers will come to the game. Well, that's got to be developed and cultured. And it happens a lot when you're in two different arenas. Caitlin the fans fell in love with her high school and in Iowa. Then when you were at Iowa, as fans begin to fall in love, fans are traveling with Caitlin Clark. The significance of the point guards in the WNBA, there's some good ones. I mean, you got Chelsea Gray, you got Williams, Skylar Diggins. You got a lot of good ones, but, you know, you got one that's the MVP. And the MVP is taking a team that was built for success, but they were missing a piece. The Indiana Fever were built for success. They had gotten everything they needed, but they were missing one player. The one player was Caitlin Clark, and what did it do? It blossomed.
A hell of a number.
Those are hell of a numbers.
But to me, that's not dominating.
It's only not dominating because she's a rookie.
Now, if
if she's putting up numbers like Asia right now, would she be dominating?
Yes.
So it's about the numbers. Yes. I don't look at the dominating factor being numbers. It's what you're doing on the floor. And those numbers would change if the factors on the floor changes. If you make that layup, the stats change. If you swing, I get a layup, stats change. Things are factors on the floor that we don't get to see because we're glorifying the stat when we talk about dominating. And you look at the passing, like, that's an obvious thing. And Alyssa Thomas is probably the only one that could be like, yo, I'm the passer.
Yeah, but
I'm the dominating passer.
Can't say that.
All the other Indiana Fever, when you take a point guard that can rise everybody up, okay, and it's us against the world, well, that's where it's always been with Caitlin. And, you know, with me, I'm always enjoying the underdog. Why do I enjoy the underdog? Because the underdog can do some things that will shock you tremendously. And that's Caitlin Clark, right? She's doing stuff now that's shocking. Nobody knew it. Nobody saw it. But a lot of people saw it at Iowa, and they weren't tired of watching it. They wanted more. They wanted more. But you got to understand in the WNBA, when you get to Sheryl Swoops, right? You get there, and everybody wants to get on there. Well, you got Sheryl Swoops is really just starting just a fire. I mean,
both Angel and Caitlin, not just Caitlin.
Right.
My statement was, I don't think either of them are going to come into the league and dominate immediately, meaning what they did in college.
Over all of the players in the W.
And the reason why I said it is because you have a player like an Asia Wilson who has been in this league for a while and gets better every single year that, and maybe this was more so for the new fans who never watched the WNBA. So my point being, there is hella talent in this league. It's not going to be as easy as y'all think it's going to be.
Right.
But you got to put Swoops in perspective because Swoops is Swoops, and Swoops is going to do what she wants to do. She's a grown woman, and now she's got an Aces jersey on, so what did she do? She just went ahead and switched up, okay? The Sky are done, and the Sky aren't going to win, so what am I going to do? I got to go get on the bandwagon of somebody else, and there comes the Aces jersey, right? You go from Angel Reese. It's like, it's like boxing, You get, and Sheryl Swoops is like Don King, really, if you ask me, like Don King. You walk in the ring with Joe Frazier, you walk out with George Foreman, okay? It is what it is, but this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast. All things are possible. To those who believe my position here, I believe the WNBA is fantastic. Can't get any better. It's rising higher and higher, and that's what the game is all about. But the Indiana Fever have got a shockwave going through. They're going down. They're getting ready to play. Atlanta Dream owner. I have no idea how you take your position. You speak out like you do, and you're last in the league in attendance. These are the attendance stats as you go right on through it, and I don't care who you are and how you look at it. You got to know this. Okay, you look at the stats. So while all these people are speaking that the WNBA is fine, the WNBA works great, we don't need to change anything. Those are the people whose numbers are terrible, okay? And they're not marketing it, and this is why they are where they are, right? So you got the Atlanta Dream last, okay? You got the Washington Mystics last, okay? You got Dallas Wings last, and the surprising one here is the Connecticut Sun. Why the Sun don't draw more fans? Why don't the Sun draw more fans? You know why they don't draw more fans? I'll tell you why. Okay, because they don't have a face of the franchise. Right. They don't have a face of the franchise. You can go out there and do all these things you want to do. You can do anything you want to do as a WNBA player. That doesn't mean the sponsors are going to buy it, okay? And they're going to buy your brand of basketball. And if the sponsors don't buy the brand, okay, you cannot sit there and not adjust because you will eventually go out of business. Why? Your client image. I mean, it gets down, when you get to corporate enterprise business, there's only about 5 areas you can dig down deep into and make change. One, it's going to be your revenue. You always want to do that. You got your expenses. Third, you're going to be your client image. And fourth, you're going to work on efficiency. And then when you get to 5, 6, 7, we keep going, but they're all stopped at 5. You talk about your safety, security, and the stability, right? So the Indiana Fever have done what? They developed a tremendous client image. That's why they're sitting there at the top, and the players that the Indiana Fever have are bought in or fitting that client image. Now, if you don't want to fit this client image that the Indiana Fever have, then there's replacements. There's replacements that are going to be knocking at the door, and the NBA guards and NBA shooters know, man, oh man, do I wish I had a point guard like Caitlin Clark. One, I'm going to play in front of a sold-out crowd every night. Every night, I'm going to play in front of a sold-out crowd. Is it a big deal to Caitlin? No, because she's been playing in front of sold-out crowds for a long time, right? Boston, is it a big deal to Boston over there in the Indiana Fever? No, she's been playing in front of sellout crowds for a long time, right? So you got to put all this in perspective, and you got to get back to Sheryl Swoops, and I feel for. I mean, you got to pull you out for telecast. You got to bring Nancy Liebert in to tell the truth about a player, because you have a vendetta that you're trying to hide of jealousy, disliking, but because she's doing and breaking records and doing things that you couldn't do in the WNBA. That's embarrassing, folks. That's embarrassing. Okay, and if Sheryl Swoops had the knowledge, now let's talk about her knowledge. Had an opportunity as a head coach, she'd be coaching today. Okay, but the whole team turned on her. Okay, just like everybody else. So when you start saying you're getting death threats, okay, you got somebody who is pushing a narrative that it's basically exciting a riot. That's what Sheryl Swoops is doing, exciting a riot, okay? And then you got the dream owner, who wasn't the owner. The primary, they had to replace Montgomery, that's kind of splitting and doing double duties. But what is Montgomery doing? I mean, Montgomery is speaking just from a business standpoint, business acumen. It shows she has 0 coming in on a business acumen. And all the people who are speaking against this, they're sitting at a 0 in the business acumen. Why? Because you would understand, what are we trying to accomplish? What's the end goal? The end goal is to have the most attractive league in the not only in the United States, the WNBA, but in the world. Okay, when you have the most attractive league in the world, you can do things that other people can't do, right? But as long as you're hanging in there and you're holding on as tight as you can, and for an owner, okay, and I'm like, do you look at your balance sheet? Are you in a positive cash flow on the Atlanta Dream? They may be getting a sellout every night, but the reason the WNBA has not had growth. Now you got to hear me out, because a lot of people miss this. They don't understand the reason the WNBA has not had growth in the last 28 years is because of their client image. Their client image. That's the number one thing. If you go to Disney World, most important thing to Disney World is the client image. Did the fan have a good experience? Okay? When you get into it and your client image suffers, okay, that is the most critical piece. If I talk to WNBA owners and you talk to WNBA players, I want to talk to you about your client image. Are we projecting the correct client image? And folks, I've been to the mountaintop, like I said, worked for AT&T as a national business manager, and these are discussions that we have with CEOs from top to bottom. Doesn't matter who you is, and you could be the owner of the Indiana Fever. They still got to have somebody manage that infrastructure. And you got to sit in those meetings to understand those meetings. And I'll tell you this, it would be a huge advantage for the WNBA to have a symposium to walk the players of how the revenue really works, to walk them through the balance sheet so they can understand if we're making this move, why we're doing it, okay? Because it's not because we're trying to make things different. We're trying to get to that stage of making money and paying players. But it did happen, and when things like this does happen, you got to look at it. You got right there, okay, you got Brittany Griner, and Brittany Griner's going in there at Rickea Jackson, okay? You see that, fires the elbow first, goes in there straight up at Rickea. Now you want to box, okay? And that's what I'm talking about right there, folks. Let's watch Brittany Griner throw the elbow. Rickea Jackson complains about it. Now you're ready to go box, right? And so you start this big old melee, okay, that you got. Now, what does that do? That's what I mean by client image, okay? When you get players who are bigger than the league, you're bigger than the league, okay? You don't care about your character, your discipline, anything you do, and you got a rookie, okay? And here's where the pendulum ball's swinging and it's off. Here's where the equilibrium, I mean, it's like having vertigo, okay? Because you're just spinning and spinning and spinning, right? Because you got a client image problem. And that's why the WNBA hasn't grown. Okay, you got Caitlin Clark and the rookies coming in, changing the client image. You got half of the players who are in there are saying, we were fine with our client image. But how do you be fine when you're the product and there is nobody that's willing to pay for your image? Okay? And for the life of me, I hear players talk about the WNBA is not doing this and that. Folks, in the world of basketball, and when you get right into it, you get in there and you get a player signed up, grassroots, start the relationship early. The NBA doesn't market players, okay? What markets players is who you have the sponsor, okay? So when you see LeBron, Nike plays for those commercials, okay? You got to have somebody, a player with a great client image that corporate America is willing to put you on air as the face. And if you get up there and you're dropping F-bombs and you're fighting and you're doing all these things, it ain't going to work for you. It ain't going to be a long victory because the way the league works now, I'm telling you, Wall Street's in. When Wall Street's in, these guys want a return on their investment. I'll cover the Kathy Engelbert response because she told some very valid points of what she's doing with the investors. And at the end of the day, you got to understand, you can go at Kathy Engelbert all you want, but Kathy Engelbert works for the owners. She don't work for the players. Okay, it's like Roger Goodell in the NFL. Roger Goodell works for the owners. Okay, he doesn't work for the players. Okay, Kathy Engelbert deal is to try to make the investors, the owners, much money as possible, and you utilize the means within the corporate realms to do so, and that's what she's doing. And that's why the decision gets made. You got to have Caitlin Clark on national TV. And we only got 12 teams, so that means every team gets a chance to be on national TV. It's no longer going to be showing Phoenix Mercury, Brittany Griner, the old regime. I hate to say it, but half of the players won't be here. That's just the fact of life. And, I predicted that one in, and I'm not going to change off it. It is what it is because this is the WNBA. The client image now is the WNBA is fantastic, okay? They're lifting up, bringing back the brand of the WNBA, and they're going to market it as the WNBA. They won't necessarily market it as the W because nobody knows what that means. So they got to do what's right, and that's kind of how it comes. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. And what am I talking? I'm talking about the right way and doing it the way it should be done. And that's what's going on. And when you got people like Sheryl Swoops want to do that, you understand that this is the Indiana Fever. You got Caitlin Clark, Christie sides are trying to hold together a client image, okay, that's projected out to the public. That's why the WNBA is moving the All-Star game to Indiana, okay, because the client image is what's it all about. And when you get it to the point, you got a superstar, that's right. You got a game changer, a generational player. That's Caitlin Clark. All you got to do is do what you do. And she's been chosen, and she is God-gifted, and that's all predestined before the foundation. So I always tell you, all things are possible to those who believe. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast, and we'll see you soon. Go Fever!